Hyundai Motor Group unveiled a bold vision, a $7.6 billion state-of-the-art electric vehicle factory near Savannah, Georgia. This mega-plant was to be a symbol of modern manufacturing, promising 8,500 direct jobs and a ripple effect of economic growth across the region. For Georgia families, it meant hope, a path to the middle class, and a revival of American manufacturing. Hyundai's plan was part of a $26 billion U.S. investment strategy, aiming to become a true local player. The Georgia Meta plant stood as the crown jewel, celebrated by local officials as a historic win. Incentives flowed, and construction began, with the community buzzing about the future. The project represented progress, opportunity, and a belief in international partnership. Hyundai's name became synonymous with hope and a brighter economic future. The excitement was real. American workers and families looked forward to stable, high-tech jobs. The Meta plant was more than a factory, it was a promise of prosperity. The future, it seemed, was electric, and Hyundai was leading the charge. Hyundai's investment was as political as it was economic. Facing tariff threats under the Trump administration, Hyundai launched a charm offensive to prove its value to America. The company donated $1 million to Trump's inauguration and shifted SUV production from Mexico to Alabama, aligning with the administration's America First agenda. Hyundai's leadership, alongside South Korea's president, visited Washington, reaffirming the alliance and promising billions in U.S. investment. President Trump publicly praised Hyundai's plans, holding up the Georgia plant as proof his policies were working. For Hyundai, this was validation. They believed they'd done everything right to secure their place in the U.S. market. Billions invested, jobs created, and public gestures made. Hyundai felt confident it had avoided the threat of punishing tariffs. The company's efforts seemed to be paying off, with Washington's approval and local support. Hyundai's strategy was clear: embed deeply in the American economy and become indispensable. The hope was that goodwill and investment would shield them from political risk. For a moment, it looked like Hyundai had mastered the American game. But politics, as they would soon learn, can change in an instant. Despite Hyundai's efforts, the Trump administration imposed a sweeping 25% tariff on all imported cars and parts in April 2025. No exceptions were made for South Korea or Hyundai, upending the company's business model. The tariff threatened to raise costs, force price hikes, or inflict massive losses. For Hyundai, it felt like a betrayal. Years of partnership and billions invested, suddenly at risk. Tensions escalated further in September, when federal agents raided the Georgia Meta plant construction site. Homeland Security targeted workers, not the company, in a massive immigration enforcement action. The raid was unprecedented, turning a symbol of American renewal into a scene of chaos. The administration's message was contradictory. Foreign investment was welcome, but the people building it were not. Confusion and fear swept through the project, leaving everyone questioning what had gone wrong. The foundation of trust between Hyundai and the U.S. was shaken to its core. September 4th began as another busy day at the Meta plant, until federal agents arrived, sealing off the site. Work halted instantly as agents checked IDs and work documents, transforming productivity into panic. Nearly 475 workers were detained, including many highly skilled South Korean engineers, essential to the plant's launch. Their detention brought critical work to a standstill. Eyewitnesses described the humiliation: professionals in handcuffs, loaded onto buses, and sent to detention centers. News of their treatment spread quickly, alarming the Korean community across the U.S. Most detained Koreans were on short-term business visas or the visa waiver program, accused of overstaying or working outside their status. The government called it law enforcement. Hyundai saw it as a punitive blow to a celebrated project. These weren't hidden workers. They were the experts needed to make the Meta plant a reality. The raid left the project paralyzed and the community in disbelief. The sense of partnership had been shattered in a single morning. For Hyundai, the dream was now a nightmare. The question lingered: how could it all go so wrong so fast? The aftermath was devastating. 475 workers detained, families left in limbo, and the site abandoned mid-task. American workers watched in shock as colleagues and supervisors were led away, their own futures suddenly uncertain. For the families of detained Koreans, confusion and fear set in. Loved ones missing, legal hurdles mounting, and no clear answers. The human cost was immediate and immense. In a surprising twist, the administration offered detained Korean specialists a deal: stay and train Americans, or go home. Nearly all chose to return to South Korea, rejecting the offer after their treatment. Their departure left a massive skills gap. Complex machinery sat idle, and few Americans had the expertise to finish the job. The project's future was now in jeopardy. The sense of teamwork and shared purpose was gone, replaced by mistrust and anxiety. The promise of high-tech jobs and prosperity was slipping away. The meta plant, once a beacon of hope, now symbolized lost opportunity. The damage was done, not just to the project, but to the people who believed in it. The dream of a manufacturing renaissance was fading fast. News of the raid and the treatment of Korean workers sparked outrage in South Korea. Images of engineers in shackles fueled a sense of national humiliation and betrayal. The South Korean government condemned the raid, launching an investigation into possible human rights abuses. U.S. diplomats were summoned, and public protests erupted outside the American embassy in Seoul. Labor unions demanded a formal apology, accusing the U.S. of luring investment only to punish those who delivered it. The alliance, once celebrated, was now under severe strain. President Lee Jae-myung faced intense pressure to respond, balancing the crucial alliance with overwhelming public anger. The incident was seen as a direct affront to Korean dignity and a test of the relationship. The diplomatic crisis deepened with the future of U.S. Korea relations hanging in the balance. The trust that underpinned decades of partnership was now in jeopardy. The fallout was swift and severe. Hyundai announced it would redirect billions in investment from the U.S. back to South Korea. The dream of a deep partnership was replaced by retreat and self-reliance. Hyundai fast-tracked domestic EV and battery plants, abandoning the Georgia Meta plant as its global centerpiece. For American workers, the loss of 8,500 promised jobs was devastating. The shockwave spread through the Korean business community. Other giants like Samsung and Korean Air reconsidered U.S. expansion. The risk of tariffs and enforcement actions was now too high. Trust in the U.S. as a stable investment destination had been shattered. Projects like Hyundai Steel's planned Louisiana factory stalled, as Korean technicians refused U.S. assignments. The economic pain spread far beyond Georgia, threatening jobs and growth nationwide. The promise of a manufacturing renaissance was slipping away. The U.S. had become a risk, not a refuge, for foreign capital. The cost of broken trust was measured in lost jobs and lost opportunity. Hyundai's Georgia saga became a cautionary tale for global investors. Protectionist policies and unpredictable enforcement created a climate of fear and uncertainty. The U.S. had offered incentives for green energy and EV investment, but the raid sent a conflicting message. Why invest billions if the rules could change overnight? Experts warned that capital flees instability. Companies need decades of certainty, not shifting political winds. Even those who tried to comply, like Hyundai, could be targeted. The chills spread through boardrooms worldwide, from Tokyo to Berlin. The biggest losers? American workers, whose hopes for new factories and jobs were dashed. The events in Georgia threatened to derail the manufacturing renaissance. Other foreign companies now hesitated to invest in the U.S., fearing similar treatment. The ripple effect: fewer factories, fewer jobs, and less opportunity for American communities. The lesson was clear: trust and stability are the real engines of economic growth. The Hyundai saga left the U.S.-South Korea relationship deeply fractured. Decades of partnership and investment were now clouded by mistrust and uncertainty. The lesson for foreign executives: political risk in the U.S. is higher than ever. Companies may still sell to Americans, but will build their best factories elsewhere. For American workers, the consequences are stark. The promise of high-tech jobs is at risk. The Meta plant stands as a symbol of broken promises and lost opportunity. Policies meant to protect jobs ended up driving investment away. The result: a lose-lose situation for both nations. Rebuilding trust will be difficult, but the scars of this episode will not soon fade.